Hello there, and welcome to the sweltering Pacific Northwest. I'm really not kidding about that. I actually got a heat warning, excessive heat alert or something like that on my phone a little bit ago. And it's going to be 90 on Tuesday next week, so I'm going to be in our room under the air conditioner probably the whole day. But anyway, I'm out in kind of a strange place. We have a shed that you put together, that Dave put together, that is behind our property, and we're actually turning it into a master bedroom because we want to live in this little cottage that we have and rent out our house, because that seems like a good way to save money. And you know, I am retired now, so we got to do something. But anyway, I also was trying to get away from the noise up the hill, which I love. It's our neighbors. They do this about every other weekend or so. They have these big parties. And we have one farm that's a big Mexican family, and then we have another one past them that's another big Mexican family. And the one that's furthest away from us always does these really great horse gatherings. So our entire road on both sides of our long gravel driveway is like very long. The whole side, both sides all the way down have horse trailers on them. And our neighbor Juan built a really great arena up there, and so his friends will bring their horses and they do that really fantastic little, you know, that little trot. I videotaped it at one point when I was coming down our road and I had to let them pass, and it is just wonderful. So I'm going to see if I can find that video and I'll show you. It's much better than, you know, I think this will give you a better idea. But anyway, I hope the music from up there isn't too distracting. So I wanted to tell you about another time that God had provided for us in a way that, you know, it was just, I love when God establishes his timing and shows us why things happen when they happen. I just think that's amazing how God knows the exact moment we need to discover things. So it was about, I don't know, maybe 2 years into our ministry. And so it wasn't even the year 2000 yet, but we were living on very little. I mean, Dave was working 3 jobs and didn't want to take any money from the church, even though, you know, we were getting bigger, so they were wanting him to be more available. And that's when he finally did accept just a little bit of a salary, $250 a month. But it took him years to get to a real full-time position because he was reluctant to do it. But finally, the elders had gotten together and said, we really need you available. And so that's when he went full-time. But at this point, he was working 3 jobs, and one of those jobs was working in a foundry. And I didn't plan it this way, but actually every worker in there was Hispanic except for Dave. And so he didn't understand anything they were saying and couldn't talk to anybody, but he would work. And I have this distinct memory of Dave coming home on a Saturday night and standing in the bathroom just scrubbing, trying to get that black soot off his hands, because he was going to teach in the morning and have his Bible up, you know, facing the congregation. So he's just such a good man. But anyway, back then things were really, really tight. And to be honest, those were some of the best years of our lives, because whenever we had a lack, let me say that again, because whenever we had a lack, God was right there to bring the provision. So one of those days, I was out cleaning the chicken coop, and Dave was working on one of our cars. We had this old, I want to say it was like a 72, maybe it was a 62, 67. It was somewhere around there in that, you know, very small gap of time. Anyway, it was one of those really old trucks that had kind of the rounded things on the side, they're not fenders, you know, the wheel things. Okay, I'm not going to talk truck to you anymore, but let me just say, we had a car and we had Dave's truck, which he was madly in love with. And the car had broken down, and it was something major, like we had to get a new transmission or something like that. I think that's major. But the truck was what we were taking to church every Sunday, and it was perfect because Dave and I could sit up there with Zach in the middle of us, and, you know, off we went. Well, suddenly the truck wouldn't work. And so on this Saturday, we'd been, you know, Dave been chopping wood and I was stacking, and then we kind of went down the list. So I went out to do the chicken coop, and he decided he would take another look at the truck to see if it was something he could figure out. He's really good with those things. So I remember that I had been cleaning in there, and Dave came up to me and told me, he said, well, I have good news and bad news. He said, I know what the problem is on the truck and I can fix it. The bad news is we don't have money for the part. So we just stopped what we were doing and stood in our driveway holding hands, and we just prayed. And we said, Lord, you know our need before we even know we have a need. And so would you just be the provider for this and help us to get to church tomorrow? Because this was a Saturday. And about 15 minutes later, it was so weird. I got this overwhelming urge to go clean out my purse. And sometimes I always know when God is speaking clearly to me, because this situation, I don't want any part of cleaning out my purse. It's just the worst. I mean, there's lint in there, there's gum wrappers, there's receipts. It's just a big pain. So I got this feeling, and I know I wouldn't say that to myself. So I ignored it. That's what you do with unpleasant thoughts at first. And then it came back again, go clean out your purse. So this time I kind of paid a little bit more attention and did realize that that was not me suggesting that. And so the third time it came, I just put everything down, went in the house, washed my hands because I had been out in the chicken coop, and went and sat down at the table and started pulling things out of my purse. And I always had, at the time, I'm better about this now, but I always had just a big clump of, flyers and stuff, kind of like what I said in another one of the videos about the pile of mail for me that was waiting at my mother's house. But in my purse, I'd always kind of shove receipts and all that in there. So I pulled out this big, massive, pile of stuff and started going through it, and almost all of it was flyers for stores. I don't know why I save those all the time, but I did. And back then, it's funny, when I told the other video, that was a lot of the mail that I had coming then. I don't know, gotta think about that. Anyway, I started throwing things out one by one, and right in the middle of the pile, I pulled out this envelope, and the front of it said, to Dave and Shannon, with love from God. That gets your attention. I opened it up and I pulled out 5 $20 bills. And there was no note to say who had done it. And honestly, as much as I disliked cleaning out my purse, it could have been in there for months. I don't know. But I couldn't believe it. And I went running out the door. We'd only prayed like 15 minutes earlier. And I said, Dave, God provided. And I showed him the money. Oop. It is getting windy, that's good. But I said, God provided the money. And so he called one of the guys from church who came and picked him up, and they drove to Al's Auto Supply in town. And when Dave came home, he had the part and $2. Isn't that amazing? Because the other story was exactly like that too, when we needed the money for Dave's tuition. Again, God said, here's what you need for your lack, but now go get a hamburger with the other two. Because back then you could probably get a hamburger for $2. But anyway, I love that story for, 25 reasons. But one of the reasons I love it is because it's absolute proof of Psalm 139:4, where actually David says to the Lord, before a word is even on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. And other versions say you know it altogether. And what it really illustrated to me, this situation, is how true that was, that before Dave and I stopped and prayed in our driveway to ask God to provide what we needed that we couldn't get for ourselves, way back, I don't even know, like I said, it could have been in there weeks or months, way back there, God had put it on someone's heart to write out an envelope, get some money in there, seal it up, and sneak it into my purse. And, it's not a coincidence that I found it the moment we needed it. Isn't that just beautiful? I love that so much. So I hope that these little stories are encouraging to you, because we all have needs. So if you have a lack, believe that verse and thank God that before you even know you have a need. Let's put it that way. I didn't know the truck was broken down until Dave told me. But before we have the need and before we ask for the need, our Father sees and he knows and he has made a way. So start looking around in your life and seeing where those little circumstances start to pop up, and trace it back and know that God was working that out long before you ever discovered what he had provided for you. So that's it for today. I might go up the hill and enjoy our neighbor's music, but I hope you're having a great day, and I hope that it's cooler where you are. Talk to you soon.